A lot can happen in a week. Some of it good, some of it bad, some of it downright ugly. When faced with intriguing developments in the week's news, we turn to a rotating panel of non-experts to parse the good, the bad, and the ugly of it all. On today's panel, Natalie Arsenault, president of Arsenault International Consulting, Vivian Ho, health economist from Rice University and Baylor College of Medicine, and Jessica Brown, co-director of Station Theater. Natalie, Vivian, Jessica, welcome to Houston Matters.
Howdy.
Thanks, Craig.
Panel, on Monday, Harris County Attorney Christian Menefee filed lawsuits against a pair of Houston area gas stations for alleged price gouging during Hurricane Beryl. According to Menefee, his office received more than 250 complaints of price gouging following the hurricane. Many businesses were sent cease and desist letters to get them to reduce prices. 2 businesses refused to comply, a pair of Shell gas stations, one in Bel Air, the other in Baytown. The Bel Air location allegedly raised regular unleaded gas prices from 25 to 41% after Beryl. The Baytown location's accused of raising premium gas prices 44%. Harris County is suing 2 Shell stations for price gouging after Beryl. Is this good, bad, or ugly? Natalie Arsenault, start us off.
I'm conflicted. Price gouging obviously is horrible. That's very, very bad, and you should not do it. But I think this leaves me with more questions because, gas prices are one of those things that the average person really doesn't understand the complexity that goes into the pipeline of gas and how it gets out of the earth and to a pumping station and how pricing works and all of that. Since it happened after Beryl, and I wonder, when the allegations are made about price gouging, do they go back, the people who are making the allegations, do they get access to the purchase orders and things like that? Because I'm wondering if they were going to raise their prices anyway, because maybe what they sold during Beryl, they bought at one price point, and now after Beryl, maybe there's supply chain issues or whatever, and now they had to pay a different amount, and so they are going to increase their prices in accordance to what they purchased it for at that point in time, right? Because businesses aren't designed to really lose money. Well, I guess some of them are, but that's a whole different conversation. So that leaves more questions for me than it does answers. But overall, price gouging is bad. And I hope that's not what they were doing. I hope that they were either recovering cost related to their supply chain or for the futures that they may have purchased and they came due at that point in time. And so they were going to raise their prices anyway. I really hope that they were not price gouging.
I guess I would suggest there might be a distinction between raising prices and raising prices. It's one thing if it's going up 10 cents a gallon. It's another if it's going up suddenly $1.50 a gallon or something like that.
That's true. But, you still don't know what they bought it for and you don't know what happened. And, so I'm just wondering if there's some type of comparison that gets done to say, okay, you bought it at this much, it makes sense that you would increase your price point by X, Y, and Z.
For comparison's sake, I'll show you this app called Gas Buddy, and you can look at the different gas stations and see what...
Yes. And no, seriously, okay, not necessarily price gouging. Maybe it was price gouging, and it was a Shell station. Okay, let me tell you. So, sidebar, on my way to the airport... In Intercontinental, there's a Shell station that's lonely on its own on one corner, and then there's an Exxon and then a Swift and something else on the other side. Everybody else's gas was $2.89, $2.99. I pull into the Shell station because it's the convenient one going into the airport to drop off the rental car. And all of a sudden, and they don't have their prices advertised like everybody else. You have to pull in, get to the pump, get out, see the price. It was $4 for, I'm what is happening on this corner? So yes.
We all went on quite a journey there, didn't we with Natalie?
We did.
It was worth it.
Good, bad, or ugly? Vivian Ho.
I think it's good that the county is suing these 2 gas stations. I'm willing to believe that it was price gouging. The fact that there were not reports that this price increase of this extent occurred in other parts of Houston. So I'm just thinking it was bad behavior. And the fact that they raised the price so quickly, whatever they had in the ground already at the gas station, those costs are done, already paid for. I can understand if the costs eventually go up because, what Natalie said in terms of maybe there's higher costs of getting future gas in. But it just doesn't work that way. So good for the county.
All right. Good, bad, or ugly. Jessica Brown.
I mean, I definitely think that the price gouging is ugly. I am glad that the county is attempting to do something about it. And I think that because of that, all of the questions that Natalie has will be answered, which, I think is really what it all comes down to. Unfortunately, I remember going through something similar to this years ago. During 9/11, I was working for the state of Texas at the time, and we had a massive tourism conference in town in Austin. And we had some folks trying to get back to Washington, D.C., and suddenly the rental cars were like $500 a day and things like that. So, I mean, unfortunately, it does happen, and it does happen at times of emergency. And that is absolutely the worst time for it to happen, because you have all of these folks who are in dire situations at time. I know that I had to stay home for 2 days because, I live in Humble near where you're talking about, and I went to 10 different gas stations, could not find any gas. And so, I'm just kind of imagining the whole like Snidely Whiplash thing with him was like, hey, I'm going to raise the gas prices and make more money on everything. But probably that's not what happened. Probably it's someone just is like, oh, supply and demand. People have a need for gas. I can charge more for it. They just were not being very nice people about it. And that's unfortunate. So I do hope that with the lawsuit that the specific details come out, because, obviously what you're saying, Natalie, is something that could very well happen. And we don't know how pricing is set up. But, if it was immediate after barrel, then that's a lot.
And I think what'll be interesting to see is if they are found to have been price gouging, I wonder what Shell's repercussions will be against that gas station.
Oh, that's true. I didn't even think about that.
If it's, because some of these gas stations are, franchised out, right, and just wear the moniker and buy the gas. Others are owned by the company. So I wonder if they will take some kind of punitive measure against the company, against those stations too.
Well, hopefully they learn.
Hopefully so.
Panel, the restaurant chain Barnaby's Cafe is mired in a bit of a social media controversy after a staff member last Friday had a friend share an announcement on Reddit from the restaurant's management detailing a pay cut for servers at its 9 Houston locations. As of last week, their hourly wages were cut from $5 an hour down to $2.13. The federal minimum for workers who receive more than $30 a month in tip is $2.13. As Cron food reporter Eric Chang noted, the message also came with a warning not to discuss it with customers or post about it on social media or face possible termination. The restaurant attributed the pay cuts to tough financial sledding after closures caused by power outages during and after recent storms. According to one employee, servers only learned of the change through word of mouth and no one else received pay cuts. Barnaby's Cafe has reportedly cut its servers' pay and warned workers not to tell anyone or they could be fired. Is this good, bad, or ugly? Vivian?
Well, this was badly done. Okay, I'm an economist, but I've never run a business myself. So I understand the need for a business to not lose money. If they're going to lose money in the long run, they're going to have to shut down. However, it's quite disturbing that they choose to cut the wages of the servers and not the rest of the workers there, including the managers and the back staff. So what I would just say to them is, if you could have had more transparency about the financial troubles you are, so we can understand, are you going to go out of business if you don't cover these workers? And also, what is the pay policy there? Now I'm kind of curious. I don't know whether other workers in the area are earning the same wages or whether they're on a different type of policy where they offer higher wages. I was kind of stunned that, it goes from $5 to $2.13 an hour. So it'll be really interesting. Are the other restaurants offering higher wages versus them? Because then their servers should just leave. Although I was in a Barnaby's earlier this summer. I don't go there very often. I just don't care for them. But they're packed. And so I can see the attraction to the servers of, this could be a lot of money in tips. However, sort of seeing this, the only reason I went to that Barnaby's was because the person I was going to have lunch with wanted to go there. And other than that, I don't think I want to go there for a while.
All right, Jessica.
I'm kind of with you on that. Barnaby's is not a place that I go to frequently, although I do enjoy their food. I'm not in that area as much anymore. But it does seem like there could have been some transparency with that. Is it a permanent decrease? Is it a temporary decrease until maybe they're back on their feet a bit more on solid ground, kind of, and maybe if you talk to your staff about working with you as opposed to, just telling them this is the way that it's going to happen, but not necessarily maybe leaning a little bit more into the why as opposed to, oh, yeah, well, we had these days because, if this is a permanent change in their rates and they're just trying to make up for, 4 or 5 days of not being able to serve, does that make sense? It just, the whole thing really does feel bad, bordering on ugly.
Natalie.
Well, what this story proved to me is that there's a reason why I have a job. And that's because organizations don't manage change that impacts their employees very well. So this would be one of those times. So I agree. I think it was done poorly. I also think, free management advice to anyone listening who owns a company: if you want something to not be published, do not put it in writing. It's like legal 101. So putting a big thing that says do not share on top and then putting all your stuff and then giving it to your employees probably means somebody's going to put it on TikTok or somewhere.
Absolutely.
Although I'm not sure in this case whether that was a written message or a verbally shared message following your advice, but basically upper management going to middle management saying, make sure they know this.
Okay, well, that's fair. So then that means it's quite possible we need the other side of the story then at this point in time, because
Agreed.
I was thinking there was a little memo out there and maybe the memo said things, but if we don't have the memo and we just have somebody who might be a little upset that their wages got cut or whatever, that's a different story. I mean, there's a lot of things here to both what Vivian and Jessica said. Again, businesses are in business to make money. Oftentimes, salaries, headcount, all of that are the easiest way to recover money in a quick way. So you see layoffs and headcount reductions and wages being decreased and all of that. And for Texas, what struck me from this was that, and I've never owned a restaurant. I've owned a business, but I've never owned a restaurant. I knew that there was a $2.13 kind of minimum if people made a certain amount of tips. But what's interesting is that they were paying them $5 an hour, which isn't even the minimum wage. So you're not paying the $2.13 for tips, which would be, okay, you're going to be a fully tip-driven contractor, employee, or whatever, or we're going to pay you minimum wage because we don't know what your tips are going to be and we're going to regulate your schedule a bit more and all those things. So I didn't know you could show up at $5 an hour. I thought it was like an either or. Either they're $2.13 an hour and they're getting tips, or their minimum wage and they might be getting tips out of a communal pot of tips. I think ultimately it could have been done better, and companies have to do what companies need to do to survive. And I don't think that they owe us the transparency, even though it came out in the news articles. And I happen to like Barnaby's and I eat there and they have great chocolate cake.
They do. It's delicious.
And apple pie, which I'm not a fan of, but oh my God, Barnaby's apple pie, seriously. But I do think they need to be a bit more transparent with the people that they employ around the business decisions that were made. And yes, you may have to stay at $2.13 for the rest of forever. But I just think, again, I think you said it, Jessica, a bit more of the why.
Justification is always going to help, because
Yes.
if you're just making a decree, I say this in our improv classes, it's the difference in saying I'm mad and sounding, like a toddler versus saying I'm mad because of this.
Right.
It's never about leaving the cap off the toothpaste.
Exactly.
There's always a reason for it. And to know the reason, I think, would make people feel a little bit better. But I agree with you 100%. It's not owed to us. We have no stake in the game. As people who want to go to this restaurant, we would love for them to remain open.
Yes.
We would love for the people there to keep their jobs.
Yes.
Even what Vivian was talking about earlier, how there was no change in the back of the house. They don't necessarily get tip share. Maybe they do.
Right.
We don't know
We
this.
don't know, right?
But servers do have an opportunity to make it up, but no one wants to have their pay cut by, I think the number was like $2,400 a year with this change. Absolutely transparency and the justification.
Yeah.
And, I'm happy to keep my nose out of it because they're running a business and they have to do what they've got to do.
They got to do what they got to do. I agree.
Panel, a fun oddity might occur in baseball next week. A catcher named Danny Jansen was batting last month for the Toronto Blue Jays against the Boston Red Sox when a game was suspended mid-at-bat due to rain. The teams will resume the game on Monday, except Jansen will be on the other team. See, since the game was suspended, Jansen was traded from Toronto to Boston, and the Red Sox catcher from that game has since been sent to the minors. So when the game resumes Monday, Toronto will need to announce a pinch hitter for Jansen. At the same time, he'll likely have to enter the game at catcher for Boston. So he will catch his own at bat and end up in both teams' box scores. This has apparently never happened in Major League Baseball before. It's weird, but is it good, bad, or ugly? Jess?
Does it fit into any of those three things? Like, I mean, hilarious and weird is really what comes to mind. So those seem to be on more of the good end. So we'll just say, sure, it's good. But, I just keep thinking that was Jansen the one that was the catcher?
He was hitting during the
and so
at-bat,
he will be the catcher.
and now he will be the catcher for the other team, potentially.
I would love to see the jersey just say not Jansen or to have Jansen versus Jansen or something
I was
like
going to say
that.
the same last name would be
Right.
great.
I think that there's the opportunity to have a lot of fun with this. It's interesting. It kind of makes me actually want to watch the game. And I'm not a big baseball watching person on television. I would much rather see it live.
All right. Natalie.
So, Craig, as you know, I only go to baseball games to eat.
Right. We discussed this. Yes.
I don't know whether this is good, bad, or ugly, but I'm in line with Jessica that it's weird because I don't know. It seems like you shouldn't just be able to trade players in the middle. Like, we're worried about cheating. Like, can't they just bring your whole playbook to the team that they're
They absolutely can. Yes.
So I don't understand. This is why baseball and I just go for the cotton candy and the pizza. I don't get it.
Now I want pizza.
Vivian.
It's not just good. I think it's great. It's just baseball fans love these oddities and statistics. And this is going to be one of those. When was it that you had something like this? And I mean, the only thing I was wondering is the first two stories you had us comment on were post Beryl. And I'm just wondering, is there any chance the rainstorm was sort of leftover Beryl that sort of went up north?
It's all weather phenomena creating unusual circumstances, isn't it?
That is an incredible observation. Love that.
So, Craig, okay, so I don't know this to happen in any other sport. Like football, once you have your team, you're done. You can't draft somebody in the middle of the thing. Basketball, kind of the same thing.
Baseball is one of the few among team sports that will suspend a game on account of weather and then resume it as if no time has passed, even when time has passed.
Yeah.
It's basically, as far as the box score is concerned, it's like they entered a time machine and went back a month to continue the game.
So weird.
To the point where there have been instances where a game has been suspended and then resumed, and a player will hit his first home run of the season weeks after he hit his second and third home runs of the season.
So do they record it as the first?
Yes.
Wow, that's impressive.
There
Way
you
to go, baseball.
See, yeah, exactly. It could get ugly. What if he commits an error? Ooh. And then people are talking about like loyalty to which team.
I love this. This is great.
There's got to be a way he can bunt himself over to second base. We'll work on it. Natalie Arsenault is president of Arsenault International Consulting. Vivian Ho is a health economist from Rice University and Baylor College of Medicine. And Jessica Brown is co-director of Station Theater. Natalie, Vivian, Jessica, thank you very much.
Thank you, Craig.
Thank you.